Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, a show where the action is the juice and where we live our lives a quarter mile at a time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm your other host, Cisco from Misfit Minded. You can follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
Each week, we take the red pill and use our certain set of skills to break down the best action films of all time. Today, we're going to a mystical world of action
Mm.
and talking about the 2004 film Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
The ride of the summer is coming.
Just mind your head.
On June 4th, old friends return.
Ridiculous.
New dangers await. And the Prisoner of Azkaban escapes. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Housekeeping.
This film is not yet rated.
I'll come back later.
I just realized I was wearing my work glasses. I popped them off so I could be
Uh,
my chill self.
okay.
What a great trailer.
Your muggle
Awesome. Okay.
glasses or your muggle glasses?
I wear them at work so that I look a little bit more professional. Um, if you haven't seen it, it's about Harry, Ron, and Hermione returning to Hogwarts for their third year of study and delving into a mystery surrounding an escaped prisoner who may have a shared history with Harry.
Mm. Just
To get
like,
this bullet train started, we will go back to June 4th, 2004, a nice little summer release. I like that. It was made for 130 million. Let's go. And grossed 250 in the US and 808 in the world.
oh yeah.
So these
mega,
movies are
mega,
pretty popular.
mega blockbuster. We had a lot of them in the 2000s. Like, if you look at the top 10, there's gonna be and I haven't looked at it in a while, but I just know off the top of my head there's gonna be an Avatar in there. There's gonna be a Pirates of the Caribbean in there,
Yes.
Harry Potter, Avengers. Some
Yep.
of the it's like all the movies you think that would be in there, they're probably in there.
They're in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they made so much money that we started going down a pathway where we were hoping that that'd be where it would all trend, and, when we were talking about the Thunderbolts trailer, we have finally reached the end of that,
We've
unfortunately.
we've got. I mean, all those have reached an end. It's like it reaches everything. Harry Potter by choice, but then
Right.
Pirates of the Caribbean, it's like some other stuff. Uh, but it has to come to an end. Not everything. There's not one example of a genre or something that's dominated forever. In movie culture, it just is not existent.
We need a break. Nothing can
Yeah.
last forever, otherwise it's not as, like, precious or valuable, You kinda need to it needs to have a beginning, middle, and end so it can be appreciated appropriately.
Yeah, you can have too much of a good thing no matter what people say. I was recently listening to a podcast. This is so off topic, but I had to
Let's
bring it
go.
up because it made me laugh so hard where they were talking about foods that shouldn't exist.
Okay.
And one of them brought up a boozy milkshake, and they were just going, and they just said like their reasoning for it was like, just go jerk off, like at that point. You know what I mean? Like it's too much. It's too much. Have booze or a milkshake. You're combining too many.
The indulgence, it's too
And
much.
to bring it back to Harry Potter, it becomes sorcery at a certain point.
Yes.
You're messing with the wrong, too many elements.
That's right. Yes, oh my god, that's so good. Yes, yes, oh man, oh, I'm excited to talk about this one. So
Same.
that brings us perfectly to our first segment called Getting the Band Back Together.
I don't have friends. I got family.
In this segment, we take a slow motion look at the filmmaking choices that went into the film and all of the ass kickers responsible. Movie was written by Steve Kloves, who adapts all the films, and directed by Academy Award winner Alfonso Cuarón. His first entry, taking over for Christopher Columbus. I'm sure we'll
That's right.
talk about that transition there, because it's one of the things I think is most interesting about this film.
Mm,
And I think part of the reason I like franchises like the ones we brought up is like getting to see the trajectory of like, are they shaping pop culture? Are they following trends in pop culture? You know what I mean? Like it's like
yes.
you can see where we were as a society, but also it's like a given pull, you know. But he,
For sure.
you might recognize him from films like Gravity and Roma, two films that I love.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, what did you? Well, first, before we get into like what you loved about it, I was gonna ask like, do you remember seeing this for the first time? Because we were young lads, young
It's
muggles.
true.
Do you remember?
I do. I mean, I still remember seeing all of these movies in the theater because they were really events. And they're
Yeah,
like kind of maybe the first, I guess, like, movies have always been an event. They've always tried to make movies an event, but this was just such a like worldwide phenomenon event. And even though we had started the superhero movie thing too, it's sort of like the whole world was behind this straight out of the gate. Like people have been reading these books. Everybody I knew was like so jazzed for this. And I do remember, just being like, oh, another Harry Potter's coming out. Like, I can't wait to see what kind of cool shit they do. Cause I wasn't really a huge fan of the books. I'm not like, I'm a reader in my adult life, but as a youth, I was much more of
yeah.
a movie watcher. Um, but I do remember being like, I still love all this fantasy stuff. I still love the magic. I love the practical pieces. And when I was doing this rewatch, I was watching it with my partner, and the whole time he's like, is this the one where this and this happens? Because enough time has passed now that like we can see the whole story, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is the one where this and this happens
I will
because I do
say
remember them.
that whole not remembering thing is a symptom of a trend I don't like in franchise filmmaking, which we can talk
Oh,
about, which
okay, yeah.
is
What is it?
it's not numbering the damn movies because they
Yeah.
all blend together. You don't know which one is which, and it's just so fucking confusing. It's like if you just put a 2 or a 3 after that, I don't know why psychologically that is. What like as humans, we just remember numbers better, but like, if I struggle with that with all of those franchises that have that. Pirates of the Caribbean can tell you which one happened in what.
In which
Harry
order?
Potter,
Right.
Harry Potter, I know like you said, a little bit more, a little bit better because I read some of the books, not all
Okay.
of them, and maybe just because the age we saw them in, but it's hard, man. It is hard for some of these, like the Transformers films. God, I like
Oh,
recently
100%.
tried to like watch those because I'd never seen all of them. So
Okay.
in the last year, I've seen most of those movies. I still haven't finished the whole franchise, but if you asked me like what happened in which one, I would not be able to tell you. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yes.
just put the number on there, you know?
Please,
It's
please. Yeah, I did notice when we were going to select it on HBO, they put numbers on them. They're like,
Oh,
"People
great.
need this number," but
Well,
it's
that's what I
true,
love
like
about like some like Terrifier 3 and Smile 2. I'm like, yes, horror gets it. Horror
right.
knows
Just
like
tell us.
that. Yeah, just tell us, make it easier on us, you know?
It's a franchise, like, you want it to be a franchise, let us get excited about the numbering of it all, let us feel like, "Oh, if there's a 2, I've gotta go back and see 1," right? Like,
And it really
let
does
us
work because, like, I'm not just bullshitting because, and it's not just because I'm a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, but I know because they're numbered, like, oh, Jason gets his mask in
in this
3,
one. Yep.
and, and like, it's like I can mark them again, numbered. Why? I don't know why that is. It just is.
Same. I
But
was thinking about that with the Halloweens too, where I was like, yeah, you know what happens in each of these
3
based
is
on the
the one
number
without
with the
Michael
witches.
Myers. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. 4 are the 4 and 5 have Jamie.
Yeah.
6
Yep.
is the one where Tommy Doyle is back as an adult and
Yeah.
it's Paul Stephen Rudd because he
Yeah.
was going by that.
Why do we
Like
know that? Is it because we're psychotic, or is there something to what we're saying? I'm just
it's got to
saying,
be
think
the
about
numbers.
it, you
Yeah.
know?
But yeah, this one I feel like these are like this is a franchise I love to rewatch in the fall. So it's like I do.
Perfect timing.
Uh,
I gotta say, you gotta give me props on this for
you did
mentioning
nail
this
it.
because I was like, it felt such like perfect timing when I was watching it. Like this is the perfect time. October, November, perfect time to
Yes.
rewatch this franchise.
It
Absolutely.
truly is. Yeah, like when
Yeah.
I was looking at the original release date, I was like, "Oh, this was a summer movie though,
Mm.
huh?"
Well,
That was actually surprising to me.
it captures all the seasons, which I really like.
That's
It's
true.
like
The full year.
they really fly by, and I love like how they mark the seasons by like the tree, like the
Yep.
tree that moves, and it's just
Yep.
like, he's shaking the leaves off of himself, or like the snow, or like, but then this bird keeps fucking flying to
Yep, yep, eating the bird or something.
yeah.
It's so good.
Oh man, it's I want to say I had forgotten how much humor it was in here because everyone talks about like this is the dark one. This is where
It
shit got
starts to
real,
transition, right.
and like again, nothing against those first two with Chris Columbus. Like he does his thing that we love him for, bringing this to kids, making
The
sure we
stakes are
felt
high in them too,
they are, but they are definitely like PG 13, like what we're
vibes.
used to. And this one is like, whoa, like this is there's some fun stuff in there like we're talking about, but like there's also werewolves. Like this is like
Yeah.
the Harry Potter like horror movie too. Like October is a great time to see this because there's werewolves in this thing and
Yeah,
like
yeah, Sirius
just
Black is pretty friggin' scary, you
those
know?
Dementors.
Oh,
Whoa, are
snap.
you
Yep,
serious? Like
yep. It's true. It's interesting that Quran gets to be the one who transitions us into the deeper reality.
yeah,
Because in those first two, like they're still pretty young. So even though, the harsh world is like trying to come and get them, in this one, they have to truly engage with that harsher world. They're going out for lunch now at Hogwarts and allowed to go to Hogsmeade, like they are engaging
and
with the
like on
rest of
field
the world.
trips, I love their field trip without like
Yes.
supervision. They could just go into the town or whatever.
Totally, and they're like, "Oh, no underage people in the pub," and I'm like, "What is happening? It's amazing."
I mean, yeah, I think someone mentioned this in a review too, and I was like, I was like, man, I didn't think about that, but that's true too. That like, it's not just Columbus's tone either. It's that like the main cast are all aging too and becoming better
Yes.
actors and like teenagers, and
Yes, this
so
is
it's
the
like
puberty one, I love it.
yeah, yeah, it's like their voice is kind of I mean, that now that you say that, there are like parts that made me straight up laugh. Like everything with like Ron and Hermione, where it's like them trying not to flirt with it. It's like such a specific age where it's like
Yes.
I do have feelings for her, but I cannot show her that I have those feelings.
No, but I'm, like, totally alienated by them, and
Yeah,
Harry's, like, so emo, he's like,
I know.
"Hey, don't say that stuff about my mom," like, it's amazing because it also has the werewolf thing, which is, like, such a, metaphor for puberty too and, like, impulse
Yep,
control, and in this one, they have to, like, control their powers and their emotions, and in the first 2, they're really just embracing those things, and so this is
yeah.
just such an interesting transition that, like, I hadn't thought about in real time because I was just like learning the lore when I was seeing these movies in theaters.
I also think this is one of the most fun out of all of them to rewatch, I will say, because of the ending, which like the first time you see this, it was like I remember being like, whoa, like this is such a mind blower. Like,
Yes.
especially when you're young, you're like, they're dealing with time travel. We just did Terminator too, so
Yep.
it feels like, man, like the time they are kind of questioning the time travel logic, which I do like we were talking about in the Terminator, where it's
I
like
was thinking about it.
Harry being like, "We didn't do anything," like that
Right.
we didn't make any difference. Like everything already happened, which is again every time I'm like, "Isn't that what time travel is?" Though
Is
it's
all
like,
about. That's right. That's right.
but I do like it because I did remember it, but like having that in the back of my mind as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Hermione's just popping up places. Like the way they sprinkle it in, like the foreshadowing was like really cool. Like there's like the father clock in the school,
Yep.
and they plays like clock sound effects in the in the background. I don't know if you caught that, like in the sound
Yeah, the
design.
mix. Mhm.
And just like again hinting at the werewolf thing too, where it's like he sees the moon as the thing he fears most.
Yes. During the
um
class, they see the wolf kind of in the tea leaves.
yeah. And then they the twist in it, which is like Sirius Black, you're led to believe, played by Gary Oldman, who I'm sure like was just villain guy to me,
Yes.
did like
Extraordinaire.
yeah, and then so you're like, you just believe it, and then finding out that no, this is Harry's godfather. This was all set up,
Yep.
basically, like, and Again, I think plays perfectly into that emo Harry phase what you're talking about, because
Yes.
you tend to think of things in like black and white, and Harry having to be like, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you, and then being like, wait, what? Like you're
I want to come and live with
yeah.
you. Can I come and live with you?
Oh, that was so sweet. That like where he's like talking to Hermione, he's like, we could live in the country and like have a
Yeah,
house.
just as guys, just as guys. Oh my god, so
And
so
like
cute.
again, having the knowledge of where the franchise goes, I'm like, that's never gonna happen, buddy.
Well,
Like,
and, like, appropriately being able to never lose sight of how, like, even though this is, like, a children's story, it's like Harry has really been through
oh
horrible
my
things,
god, yeah,
like, the loss of his parents, and I feel like adolescence is when all of us really start to reconcile, like, "Oh, my parents were people before I came around, like, what kind of people were they? Am I like them? Am I not like them? Do I agree with the choices they made?" Right? Like, all that stuff is just natural developmental stuff, and I like how this movie is bridges the gap where, like, before, he has a subtle memory of them, but now he's starting to really want to try to understand and feel like he knows them, even though he won't get to know them, and everyone is like telling him he looks like his father and has his mother's eyes. Like,
eyes,
it's
yeah,
just so sweet. Also
yeah.
still sad, but just so sweet.
And I like how they wrestle with that, because like, this happens in franchises too sometimes, where it's just like, how is this final girl not in an institution at this point? Like
Word.
well, sometimes
Yes,
they do that, but
that's
like
true.
it kind of stretches the logic sometimes. So like I like that, we have these dementors, and it's like we're told it's fear itself. And why are they attracted to Harry? Because he's dealt with fearful things more than an average kid
The
that goes to
average kid.
Hogwarts, you
Yep.
know? So I like how they deal with that.
I like
You
how Harry kind of gets some nepo treatment by the ministry when he, like, did m magic outside of school, and they're like, "It's chill, dude, no
I
worries."
think I think I just like the subversiveness of it, like, because again, you think of those first two movies and everything has this like orangish sheen to it. It's like not good vibes pretty much for most of it. Like you never really feel like the kids are in that much danger. It's like, oh, he was quit it. It's like, and they had to do that. They had to like give us this world and be like, this is the rules, this is how it works. We have these like moving pictures on the walls and
Yep.
the staircases that moves. And like now that we had those set up, Quaron's like, all right, now I'm gonna like subvert that in every turn. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Now
have
even the
the
paintings are scared.
yep,
Mhm.
we have the lady in the wall. Well, no, no, she's in danger. Like we have the Quidditch game, but Harry almost
Yeah, the
dies
Dementors are
from
up
it.
in the sky, and he's
Yeah.
too high up. Yep, yep.
So it's like all this stuff which should be fun, which should be good memories for Harry, like isn't. And I mean that's his whole life up to that point. So it's tragic, but it also like fits his character.
And it
Um,
also just, like, fits the transition from being a child to being an adolescent, is,
mhm.
like, everything that used to be really sweet and fun has a darker tone to it once you're a teenager. You're just like, "Damn, how did they keep that from me, man?" And you, like, know all the
Yeah,
truth. You're learning the truth, essentially. And I
yeah,
do feel like they handle that pretty well because, like, all 3 of them are trying to embrace, like, what kind of how they're gonna evolve from the little kids they once were to like who they feel like they are now, who they might want to become. And I kind of love that Hermione was always sort of a know-it-all, and this movie really challenges like, is
yeah,
that really who you want to be? Are you for sure going to do
yeah.
that or what?
Yeah, I guess it kind of does pay off in the end. Like Lupin's like, really are the brightest witch I've ever met at your age, or whatever. And like like her double booking her classes is the whole reason why Sirius Black is allowed to live, and so is Buckbeak. Which
Mhm.
I do like the kind of the parallels between those two characters as well, which like these two innocent creatures, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
that are about to be put to death for stuff that was out of their control. One because they were a beast and they were insulted, and
Right.
then the other one because he was framed. Like I really like that, the parallels there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like it's still a concise kind of story, a lot of fun, and I love that these movies are proper movies. You know, they have good, solid budgets. They, do thoughtful things with the camera. The perspective stuff with Hagrid across these films is so good. It's like one of
Yeah,
my favorite parts.
they do
So
handheld in
clever.
this movie, like, which is, again,
Yes.
nothing you remember from the first 2 really, like,
No,
shooting it
much
like that.
smoother. Mhm.
Um,
I love the
so
boomerang newspaper images of, like, Sirius Black being like,
just screaming. Yeah, just Gary Oldman. I just picture that day just being like, "Alright, Gary, but you just have to go full crazy today,"
right,
and he's just like, "Great,
just look
alright,
insane.
perfect."
So, so good.
Um,
And yeah, just amazing costumes, amazing production design, amazing marriage of practical effects and CG. It's sort of like I'm just so grateful maybe that these were a worldwide phenomenon because I do feel like they are executed so well. And that's really hard to do. Like it's really hard to take a beloved property and totally nail it. And I don't feel like anyone is like, that's not what I thought Buckbeak would look like. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, I
Like I
guess,
feel
like,
like
that's this era of franchise filmmaking, like, it's a lot different now where it's like the production companies have the last say, and I feel
right.
like this time there was so much more trust put into, like, the director and being like,
Yeah, the designers, the creators.
we trust your vision." Like, I'm sure there were conversations about, like, how dark it is or whatever, but, like, in the end, he won out those decisions, those discussions,
Yep,
and
that's
this is
true.
a better movie for it, and, like, the stakes are so much higher for it. Um, I like too that, it does start off in, like, a lot of the goofiness at the very beginning. It kind of, like,
Yeah, the
puts you in
night bus.
this false sense of, like, "Oh, it's gonna be like a fun romp like the first 2." you know?
Right.
You got the ant that, like, blows up into, like, this fat balloon,
Yes,
uh,
yep.
and then, yeah, the bus with, like, the talking shrunken head, like, all that's like,
The weird guy that's like, "What'd you say your name was again?"
and, yeah, this is supposed to be, like, a fun, enjoyable time for these kids. It's, like, reminds you of that, like, these are still kids.
That's right, yeah.
But they keep dealing with these, like, end of the world situations with these crazy people, who want to hurt them. So, yeah, they balance it really well. I think that what struck me too on this watch, again, because as an adult you watch it so much differently, is just like how
Totally.
they sell the world of it, um, through, like, what you're talking about, the production design. Like, everything feels so lived in, and, like, it sells the magic of it a lot too, where
Yeah,
it's like, they're not just like, waving their wand at everything and whatever they want to happen is happening. It's like it's all happening in different ways. Like, you have the guy that just, like, puts his hand over the candle and it lights up, like, which is such a simple trick probably, where
right.
it's like they just have a button with the candle, or
Yeah, yeah.
something at the same time, or maybe, like, motion censored or something, but it just works. And they
Yes.
constantly were doing that, like, throughout the whole movie, where I'm like, this is probably just, like, simple practical tricks, and, like, it really stood out because we get everything CGI now. Even
Exactly.
even the new Harry Potter movies or whatever, like,
Yeah,
are
the, like, Fantastic Beasts ones. Yeah,
way
they're,
too
like,
much
so much
CGI.
packed. Mhm.
And so, like, to have, like, a more grounded, like, I hate to say, like, realism to it, but it really felt like that, you know what I mean? Where, and again, makes it more, the stakes sells the stakes a lot more because of that
Exactly.
too.
And just
Um
makes it so much more enjoyable because you really feel like you're going into this world.
Mhm. Yeah, I just noticed that a lot, because I mean, like, the only, like, really, the spells, and that's another thing I kind of have a problem with this franchise. If I'm being honest, like, it's turned into a lot of, like, people pointing their wands at each other and being like, "Huzzah, huzzah!" And
It's
it's like,
true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like,
and
wands sticking to the 2 energies coming together or whatever, right,
and
totally.
if you really think about it, the only, like, spells we get with the wands is the Expecto Patronum or
Right, the
whatever,
Patronus, right, yep.
Patronus, and when
Ridiculous.
when they
Ridiculous or whatever.
well, that's, like, training, but like, in battle, I guess. It's like when
Oh,
they're either, like, just disarming each other, the
right,
Expelliarmus, and then, like, the Patronus, and then, like,
right.
that's it. I'm like, and you don't need more than that. Like, again, we know this is a magical world, and they can do whatever. I love the map, like the
The
mischief
map is so
managed.
cool. Yes.
That was always one of my favorite things, like growing up. I was like, man, that would be so cool to have,
It
as a
would.
little
Yes, it really would.
troublemaker. Um, the fact that the Weasleys had that since their first year, they say, I'm like, checks out.
I love Ron's
Just a little,
brothers, how they
I know.
always have, like, whenever
I
we
just
need
love the
something like that.
Weasleys. The Weasleys
Yes,
are the goat family in
the
Harry
best
Potter.
family.
They are.
Mhm. Yeah, they're like a perfect sort of surrogate family for Harry because I love how much they love Harry also, right? Like in a way, the Weasley brothers they're treating Harry like a brother when they give him this map, when they catch him and they're like, "Hey, let us give you this because you're out here kind of looking
Yeah,
silly. Let us help you."
and
And the
relatable.
mom and everything.
They're relatable, like, like they're the lower class family. It's like,
Right, there's
yep.
still magic, but there's like 800 of them.
It's like I too went to a high school where I was the lower class family. Let me tell you, I know what that
I've got
feels like.
something for you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I understand this.
uh,
But it's true. Yeah, they're just like I love them as like the family dynamic that Harry can see himself within because even though, he's compiling a kind of family image when he meets people like Sirius Black, when he learns stories about his parents, it's just so nice that like he isn't just shackled with like his horrible aunt and uncle situation. He
oh, I
actually
love.
gets to feel at home with the Weasleys.
Yeah, because that's some of the darkest stuff in those first two. Honestly, is the like how
Yeah.
they abuse him and treat him, and so
Dude.
I actually really like that they skip over that because it's like they understood like no, he's got like real world problems to worry about in this movie, and so we don't
Yes.
have time to spend with the aunt uncle. Like there's the one scene, and again it ends on a super funny, like one of the funniest notes in the movie where the aunt like
Yep.
blows up like a balloon.
And she's just, like, floating off in the distance when he runs
Yeah.
away too. It's so good. So, so good.
Oh man, this is a good one. I think I was like reading again reviews and like the consensus, and I have heard this for years is this is like people's favorite one. Like this is the best
Mm.
one. I again, it's been a long time since I've seen this one, like the whole franchise.
Right.
Um, I do remember liking this one a lot, and the one after this, like the Goblet of Fire,
Yeah, I love the Goblet of Fire,
because
yeah.
I love the tourney, I love the tournament.
Same.
You
I love a
know,
good tourney and meeting kids from, like, other schools, and it's like, "Oh, there's other
yeah.
schools, like, let's go."
There's got some love triangles in that one. Like, there's some interesting stuff going on in that. So
Yep.
I would say either one of those two for sure. I'd probably say are my favorites. I don't know. What about you?
I guess, like, I do really love the first one. It's just, like, gets me so jazzed because it, like, introduces all of this. It's a lot of fun, and I was, like, at a perfect age to be like, "Yay!" when that one came out. But I do like this one a lot, and I really do love the, Goblet of Fire. I just feel like it expands the world in a really interesting new
Yeah.
way. They're kinda growing up, and I like that too, and it's, like, before we get into some of the, like, seriously dark stuff where, like, really sad stuff starts to
Mhm.
happen.
Well, it's like it still has the dark tone from this movie. Like it's established here, and they
Right,
kind of like run with it moving forward. I feel like
right.
which is
Well, yeah, it's only gonna get darker as we
yeah.
go forward.
Um, which like I was kind of shocked by that too, where I was like, we get to our body count section, I'm like, no one dies in this one.
That's right.
It's like
There is not
we're
a body count,
we're not
thankfully.
we're not gonna have that. But it just feels it's just the vibe of it.
Yeah, you
It
can tell that
feels
there is danger looming anyway.
so let's talk about some of these characters and actors in our next segment called Choose Your Fighter.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This is where we'll take a look at all the bros and babes that flex their acting muscles and sometimes their real muscles for us movie buffs. This film stars Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, the amazing teaching staff full of all the best actors that I'm so
British,
grateful
all
always
the best
return.
British actors of all time.
Exactly. Yeah, every
Everyone.
dame and sir that exists over there is here. And
Just
this
now
time
with
we
the addition
include
of old man. Now we got the
exactly,
old
yeah.
man.
We get David Thewis, who's is the dark arts professor. Because I was also laughing at like every movie. There's a new dark arts professor because they're always bad
They're the
or
bad
something's
guy
always wrong with them.
every time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like when they're
so good.
looking for like who is helping Sirius Black. I'm like, seems pretty
Obviously, the
obviously
dark arts
it's the new
professor.
guy
Yeah,
probably.
Exactly. And like you said, Oldman's here, because that was the thing too, where I was like, "Who is the other person?" And I do like the guy that plays, the, Professor Lupine or whatever.
Lupin, David
He
Thewlis,
Lupin,
yeah.
there we go, yeah, he is good in this, but
I
yeah,
re
this cast is always so friggin' stacked. That's another amazing quality of this franchise.
Yeah, I do think, like, it is a long movie and, like, it didn't feel that long, but, like, I will say that, like, there were some scenes with David Thewlis that I was like, they could have cut this down a little bit, I think,
Trimmed
or
it.
out entirely. Like, how many times does he give Harry chocolate and go, "It really helps. It really does."
He like 7 times. Yeah, like 7 times. Yeah, he
I'm
truly,
like,
like, is kind of taking Harry under his wing, which is an interesting
yeah.
thing because I guess, like, that Sirius will sort of maybe take that over as the franchise goes, but it is an interesting thing where, like
I
w
like that. I like that. It
yeah,
just, like, felt like there was, like, a lot of repetition, even, like, the what you said, like, "You remind me of your father and your mother's eye," and it's just like, okay, like, 3 characters have said this now, like
it's true. Everyone is saying it. Everyone is saying
it just
it.
maybe could have been a little tighter. But yeah, I do like his kind of like because he's always looking for a guardian. He's always looking. He's got his friend group, but like
Right.
he has nobody. Like he can't even get a parent signature to go on the field trip. Like that's how sad this dude's life
This
is.
kid, yes. Yeah, of
It's just
course
like
he needs to find father and mother figures, in the world.
and so I think my favorite one of their relationship is when they're on that bridge. I thought that was like beautifully staged and shot.
Looks
Um,
so good.
I think that's like around the same time when Harry like tells him like his happiest memory is like this memory that he's not even sure if it's false or not of his parents.
Right.
It's like yeah, I thought that was a really strong bond, like you said. Gary Oldman, always a treat to watch. I think when
Classic.
speaking of like remembering, like that's how I remember this one is like, oh yeah, this is the one where Gary Oldman came in, like
Yep, yep.
this is the Sirius Black one.
Yes, yes, yeah, because at least we know Gary Oldman is the Prisoner of Azkaban, so it's gotta be that.
It has to be that.
Yep.
And like we mentioned before, like I feel like they're all aging into, because there's some scenes in those first two that you could just be kind of cringe at and be like, all right, they're still learning the moves,
Yep,
they're kid
yep.
actors.
Your child actors
Uh,
here. Yep, yep.
but this one I feel like they're pretty well into their characters at this point. So it's like you don't even really think about it. There's just we already mentioned like the Ron and Hermione stuff is funny. Like I thought like there was a couple of Hermione moments that I love in this, like where she punches Malfoy
So
in the
good.
face, and he's
Yep.
like, bloody brilliant.
Yes, yes.
I love too that moment, like and it's kind of in the same scene where they're running away and they're seeing themselves in the past or whatever. She's like,
Right.
"Is that what I look like from the back?" Like the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Just great. And then yeah, same thing with like Ron, just completely clueless, and then we love him for that.
Yeah.
That's he gets Hermione in the end, you know what I'm saying? Like so
It's
he
true.
he
I do
doesn't need the
remember in
brains.
real time being like and I'm still kind of dissatisfied with this in the franchise as a whole, is it like, I actually always feel like Harry and Hermione had better chemistry even though they were not meant to be connected,
Yeah.
like, maybe it's just the actors I feel like seemed like they gelled better, but, like, I do love when it's just Ron and Hermione or when it's just Harry and Hermione, like, going back in time together and it's
Yeah.
just the 2 of them. We, like, never really get that because she's destined to be with Ron, which is, like, fine.
Yeah, which
It's just, like,
is funny because his leg, and she's like, "Well, since you're not really walking, I guess it's me and Harry.
it'll just be
Peace."
us. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, so, like, this one reminds me of, like I could remember in real time being
Yeah,
like, "Nice, okay, they're gonna get some alone time," because I didn't know the books and I had no idea what was, like, really
yeah.
coming, and it was just sad for me as a viewer to be like, "Oh, oh,
I
oh,
mean,
okay."
nothing's worse than Harry getting with Ron's sister, though. I mean, that's just wrong on so
Exactly.
many levels.
I
So, like,
hate it.
the Ron and Hermione thing, I can at least justify with, like, I mean, that's happened more than a few times in life
Often
where I'm
happens,
just
yes.
like, huh. those two ended together, huh? Like, it's just
Right.
like kind of
Right.
a heads, but in a way, it's like they always say like opposites attract. Where you're like, yeah, he is kind of a dumb goofball, but
Yeah, it's like a
lovable.
rom-com trope or
Yeah.
something.
And
Mhm.
she is like the smartest, so they kind of balance out, you can understand it.
I like Harry's girlfriend in the Goblet of Fire, that, like, sweet little gal that he is sort of with in that movie.
Is
It's
that
just it is so weird when he takes the, like, hard left turn and all of a sudden it's, like, him and Ginny, and then they're, like, old in the
yeah.
last movie, and I'm like, "Get
I
this
mean,
out of
just
here. I don't like
breaking
this."
breaking bro code. I really that ending of Harry Potter is just it's what
It's
keeps
not
it
for
from
me.
being like all-time
Same.
franchise for me, but
Agree.
it's still watchable, still good. Any other performances you want to talk? I had forgotten this was the one too where Professor Snape has the iconic line, turn to page 394.
Yes, yes.
Alan Rickman, just like I was like, oh, that's this one. I
He's
feel like
always
that's
so
the
good
whenever anyone tries to like impersonate him, that's the line they go
that they
to.
use. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him in all of these. I really love Emma Thompson in this one. I love when
I
Harry brings the ball back and she's like, and
Well,
does
just
that, like,
her character in general, like she just
so
brings this
funny.
like really fun energy, and like I love how all the teachers just hate Hermione for being like a know-it-all.
Yes, yes.
And even like you think like maybe this teacher will get along with her, and it's like no,
Nope,
for
she's gonna
for
say
different reasons than Snape, she doesn't like Hermione, like because you have no soul, dear. You're just stuck in these books.
Right, yeah, those books you cling to, did I say something wrong? So good.
So I love that because it's again, it's like uh, all these teachers have different skills, and so do the students. So
That's right.
Hermione, she's good in some of these classes, not good in others. It makes sense.
Exactly.
And I love
Yeah, I
how
like
Hagrid gets a class too this in this one.
me too, I was gonna
I
say
had
I love
forgotten
Hagrid in
that.
this as well. He's so sweet with the animals and everything always, and I just love that their unique relationship with him across the films is so nice.
Yeah, I love how he has that like temper tantrum when he's like throwing the rocks in the water, like
He never did anything. So sweet.
like standing up because again, true to life, it's like yes, this is a magical fantasy movie, but we've all heard the stories of the spoiled rich kid who
Ruins
fe-
everything.
feels wronged or whatever and has to like take it out on everyone else and like
Yep.
get this animal killed because of a little scratch. It's just like infuriating because it's like, oh, we know these people.
He straight threatened the beast. He did not
Yeah.
follow the rules. Like, he
Yeah, the
broke the
first thing
rules.
he said was like, "Do not offend him." He says it like 3 times, like, "Do not offend him. This is
Yeah,
not
you
a
don't
beast
wanna
you
do
want to
that.
offend."
That's right. That's right.
And then he just
Malfoy
goes
is
up
always
to him.
detestable in all of these
Uh,
movies. Just shows up doing the classic detestable thing that he always does. So at least he's a ringer every time.
yeah, and like, he gets some time to be detestable, making fun of Harry for fainting and,
Just
just
lame.
calling Hermione a mudblood, it's
And then
you
her
got you
being
got
like,
that you got that in everyone pretty much, and
yeah,
calling Ron poor piece of shit.
it's
He
true.
really gets
Malfoy
at
doesn't.
all of them in this one.
He does, yeah. He doesn't have much to do other than just, like, be a total heel, which is totally fine with me. And I do really like how, like, Dumbledore's, like, very fun in this one, being like,
Yes, I was
maybe you should use the time being
yeah.
like,
Is this I
what
think
do
is
you
this the
mean?
first
What were you
one where
doing?"
it's the new actor in this one? I think this might be the first.
When they have to transition because the other
Yeah,
guy passed away.
I think
I
so.
I think that sounds right. Yeah, I feel like the other guy is in the first 2.
Yeah. We could be wrong on that, but I again, I haven't seen it in such a long time where if someone was like, "What's your favorite one?" I couldn't really tell you like my preference because like I do remember like the first Dumbledore being like really loving and like old and
And
wise or
soft.
whatever, which
Mhm.
like you needed for those first 2 movies. But then
Totally.
like as soon as I watched this one, I'm like, "Oh, this guy's more fun though," and like mischievous, and
Yes.
like I love that energy that he
Same.
brings to this one where like he kind of like it's like really bizarre, but like it makes sense that like even though they travel back in time, Dumbledore's like in on the plan. He's like that powerful of a wizard, or he's
Yes.
like, let me give you guys some more time, to free the birds or whatever. Like, look
Yep.
this way,
Yeah, you
it's
could tell he's helping. Mhm.
And like even when Hermione at the end's like, "Yeah, we did the plan," he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Right. He's like,
What?
whatever you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what plan?
So good.
So yeah, I mean, those were, I think those were, and yeah, I already talked about like Lupin, the new professor. I think he gives a really solid performance. You're not really tipped off he's a werewolf, which is always good. You know, you
Yep.
never want to, I love that twist. And then when you find like that transformation, which is like something you look forward to in every werewolf movie, is pretty horrifying stuff for like
Yeah.
a teen movie. It's like you see, I love like Oldman's performance in that too, where he's like, "No, follow your heart,"
Yes. Remember me. Listen to my voice.
you are not
So
this
good.
beast. And yeah, it's like, and it's very like lanky. Like I love just the differences and all. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing
Different
I love
choices
most
for these
about
designs.
werewolf movies. It's I'm
Mm-hmm.
not they're not my favorite, but like the way they choose to do different designs with the werewolf, I'm like always interested in. So like he's like skinny and lanky in this one, like almost like he's been starved or something, like tall and lanky. And then
Totally.
he's got like his hair, like his Lupin hair is like still present, which I
Yes.
noticed.
Yep.
So yeah, choices that probably like it made it perfect for like a teen werewolf movie. Like he's not like frothing at the mouth with like
Right.
blood and stuff. It's like you didn't need all that.
Yeah, and
Um,
he didn't, like, blow up into this, like, super buff thing. It's like is a tall, sort of lanky man, and so the
yeah,
werewolf he becomes is kind of like
the
that.
same thing. And I thought the
Mhm.
CGI overall held up like very well.
It's
I
true,
mean,
they
like
got good money on these ones.
I mean, some of the stuff where it's like morphing, like was kind of like 2000s, like, ooh, we can like stretch stuff, where,
Right,
uh, nowadays we don't really focus on that as much. But like, so that
right,
was like the bus scene where it like gets super skinny and then super
and
wide.
everyone's 2D for a second,
Yeah.
yeah.
Other than that, though, like I was just impressed with like the beasts, like the werewolf and Buckbeak. I'm like, man, especially Buckbeak. I'm like, Buckbeak
Looks
looks
so good.
fucking good. Like the
Mhm.
feathers on that, like
Yeah.
the flying scenes. I thought all that stuff held up really well.
Absolutely, yeah. The creature design is always good in all of these films, and in this one in particular, it's great as well. And even like the Patronus, when you can see the deer Patronus, it like looks so cool in the light. It's
Mm.
animated in such a cool way, and the Dementors too. Like they are really interestingly animated, and like some of their close-ups when you can see their mouths, it kind of look like maybe there's blood on them. It's very interesting. It's like
But just
walking a
like,
line between too scary and like just scary enough.
and I just love like the metaphor of that scene too, where Harry swears that he sees his dad when we know once we get the time travel thing, it's like we know it's really Harry that does it.
Right, right.
But
That's
like
why they had to have 7 characters tell us he looks like his dad.
yeah.
Yeah,
But like, yeah, him having to like come to terms with like, no, like my dad's not like, everyone could say I look like my dad, but I'm my own person. And I'm my dad, my parents are living through me, but
that's
I'm
right.
a
I'm the
new
best of
person.
both of them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I really love that. I thought,
Same.
and the fact it's a deer too. I mean, go Bucks, baby. I thought that was perfect choice. Perfect
Yep.
choice.
Yes, gotta love it.
Corone, a low key Bucks fan or something. I don't know.
Let's go. I hope so, I hope so. Oh my god, that's so good. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Alright, yeah, let's talk about some of these kinda stunts and stuff. We don't really have a lot of kills, so we'll
Yeah.
talk more about some of the effects in our next segment called The Need for Speed.
Pain don't hurt.
In this segment, we do what the Oscars don't: honor the amazing stuntmen and women for their death-defying work and pick out the punch that knocked us out the most. What did you have? There's a
Well,
lot. There's
I
actually a lot of between like special effects sequences and
Yep.
like practical stunts. There's a lot you could choose actually.
Exactly, yeah, like, we've
Yeah.
talked about a fair amount of them, but something I always think of is, like, that how they open with him making his ant blow up like a balloon. It's just such a, like, fun effect. You can tell there that it's, like, a combo of the CG, but
Yes,
also the practical,
exactly.
and I think those are always, my favorites when it comes to these movies. So I just love that.
And the way that's shot too, where it's like again, because it's using both, they do it in increments, which is like so smart.
Mhm.
It doesn't just like cut away and then it cuts back and she's fully blown up or something. It's like it starts with her
Yeah,
finger when
her
she raises
necklace.
her finger to
Yes.
him, and it's like the
Yep.
little fat finger.
Yep. Yeah, like, the
And then
buttons that keep hitting his cousin in the head,
oh
like,
my
so
god,
good.
so
Yeah,
funny.
figure out a way to play it for comedy, even though, like, if that was really happening, everybody would freak out for sure, but it's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
fun, and I love that she just, like, flies away because it's like, "Just get this bitch out of here for real."
And I had forgotten they, like, know at this like, the gig is up. The gig is
Yeah,
up. They know he's magic,
of
because, like,
course.
right after that, he's like, "You're not allowed to do magic outside of school. You're in big trouble." And Harry's
Straight
like,
up.
"I don't
Watch me.
care. I'm running away
Yeah.
from home."
That's right. I'm packing up my chest and I'm getting out of here. So, so good. And I do
Uh,
like the night bus sequence just because it's like a funny, like, oh yeah, that's right. Like there is this underworld of magic doesn't just exist at Hogwarts and like in the surrounding areas, like
so
it's
cool.
everywhere, and we
Yeah,
get just a little taste of that. And it's just like a funny, again, played for laughs,
yeah.
like how when it stops really quickly because there's like an
The
old
old
lady in the
lady.
street.
And
Yeah.
he's,
And
like,
Harry like
counting
slams
down. He's
against
like,
the
4, 3 and 3/4, 2 and
Yes,
1.
yes, yeah, just like a funny little, aside or whatever with the
Yeah.
shrunken head and the bus driver with the huge Coke bottle glasses and stuff, just,
Harry
like,
being
super
like,
goofy.
"Don't they see us?" And it's like, "Muggles never see anything."
They don't see nothing. Yes, exactly.
Which is true,
Um
again, like, you could foresee something, this underground society existing because we're all so busy in our own worlds,
Yeah, especially, in the modern time when, like, our eyes are always down on a phone,
On
there's
the
a lot we
phone.
are missing, so
Yeah.
I like that too, but I think my favorite is, like, when they have the kinda, like, tree fight because we've seen this
Yeah,
tree
that's
through the
fun.
whole movie, alive and doing what it's doing, and it's just so funny when it's, like when they're trying to be like, "We gotta get into this thing," and it's, like, throwing them all over the place, and these kids are, like, on wires or, like, stunt people that are
That
really
was,
short or on wires, so good.
well, that was one thing, again, I remember from 2, I believe, is where the tree is introduced, and there's the car gets stuck in the tree or what, like,
Yes, the flying
um
car.
yeah, so, like, that's just a continuation of that, you know what I mean? Like, that, so I really like that too, where it's, like, stuff that's been established, that we do recognize, but now it's, like, being used in different ways, like, again,
A
to
new way.
tell different seasons, and then, of course, that's where the secret passage is, because who's gonna go close to that tree, you know?
Right. Yeah, who could get close to it? Exactly. What about
Yeah.
you? Yeah, what are some of the practical pieces or some of the stunt sequences that you really like from this one?
Like we already talked about, I really like the werewolf transition. I think, it like zooms into his eye and then like zooms out and you see him like slowly, his
Yep,
facial
his
features
mouth,
start changing.
his back.
Um, Done really well, lit really well. Um, I like the, again, just small effects, but I love like the scene where he takes the invisibility cloak, and like he's like spying on people, and like you get some of like the guy that looks into the camera, like, which is Harry's POV, and he's like, you know,
Is something there? Right, yeah.
yeah. Which again, it's just very small practical effects, and like using that map too, which is just like, again, J.K. Rowling. We haven't mentioned her name yet, but
Yeah, we don't need to because she's a
uh,
nut job in real life, so we don't
but
have to give her too much shine.
I'll just say, like, one of those things that you don't have to like the artist to love something they've created,
Right.
because Hogwarts and everything, it is such like a rich visual world. Like, have you been to the Hogwarts at Universal or whatever? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes,
I know,
absolutely.
dumb question that you're out there. I did
It's
too.
so baller too. It's so, so cool. I wanna go
Did
to the one
you?
in Florida where it's like an entire park,
Oh yeah,
because
that'd be
in
sweet.
out here, it's just like a wing of Universal, but
Mhm.
it looks so authentic. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool when I went, like, to, and I know, like, I saw, like, people, I didn't have them, but, like, you can buy the wands and, like,
Yes.
interact with, like, the stuff in the windows,
Dude, they're
and
so expensive, but
I
it's
know.
kind of worth it. It's kind of worth it. Some of the
I was
kids
just,
I
like,
nannied
geeking
for
out,
have
like,
them.
watching the kids do it. I'm like, "Good for you," like
It's very cool, because they do the whole thing for you, like, some of the kids I nanny are, like, really into Harry Potter, and, so they're for their birthdays and stuff like that, they got them, and like, the whole thing where, like, there is a person at the wand shop that's like, "Ooh, what should should I select for you, that like does the whole thing that you saw Harry get to do. So it's really
Yeah.
cool because it's like very immersive. And like when they had the frog sing along thing happening in this one, that there's like a show they do. So like at a certain
Oh, wow.
time, like a group come out with these frogs and they do that. Like it's just cool. Bugbeak is on like a roller coaster, so you get to see this big animatronic of him. Like it's just so cool how not only is it immersive in the world, but then like the theme park wise, they nailed it.
It is like a world like more than most like in fiction that like I would want to live in. Like you would see,
It'd be cool.
Aside from the Voldemort shit, it
Right.
seems
Word.
like such a crazy like cool world to live in, and like just even at the beginning, like when they're eating those like beans or whatever and making animal sounds, it's just like some of this shit is just like fun, like
Yes.
just like harmless fun.
Really
I guess
creative.
the last thing I'll mention is just like the Dementors. Like I love the design, and like
So good.
they have so many of they are like conceivably the villains of this movie, like one of them,
Yeah, they,
where
like, don't really care who they're hurting
yeah.
necessarily, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, like Sirius Black, like they're almost kill him at the end, and like I love when they come to like the Quidditch match and how that one is staged. I did laugh, like one of the podcasts I listened to, I saw his letterbox review and he was like, I'm just wondering like how does one even hire the Dementors for protection at
Right, how
Hogwarts?
does
Like
that work? What is the
is
entrance
there
interview?
is there like a head Dementor you have to talk to? Or
Yes, yes, seems like an HR nightmare, frankly.
right. So that was it, and like we said, no body bags this time around, but that's okay. Don't need it every time. A lot of people die in the next few entries if you're into
It's
that, but
true, death is coming, we didn't need any extra this one.
which takes us to our next segment called Exit Wounds.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
This is where we'll talk about the film's imperfections and decide whether they are fatal hits or minor flesh wounds. Alright, what do you got? Anything?
I don't even like saying it anymore, but just time travel stuff. It's so icky and complicated, and like because it's really just they're doing stuff that like we've already seen, so it just puts it in a different context. But like
Right.
it's like we couldn't have caught the rat guy too at the same time.
That
Like
is my
oh,
main issue, is,
that
like,
was that
we
was
know
mine
we're
too.
going back?
It's like I get it, like they do a good job of showing that like they're literally like running from spot to spot. Like it didn't feel like they had extra time, but like
Yeah, the it
you would
wasn't very thought out, they just kind of, like, ran back and were like, "We'll just have to play it by ear."
but I mean, like that, where like the wolf, like Hermione, like howls or whatever. Harry could be like, "All right, you howl," and then like I'll go by the tree and like wait for the
Get the
rat
rat,
to come
dude.
out. Yeah,
Exactly.
like it's oh man, it just drives me nuts, the time travel shit. But I mean, it's again, it's like done well. It's like kind of cute, like and fun when they're outside of Hogwarts like hut that he lives in, and they're just like they're like, wait, why are we not
"Wait,
paying
you're not
attention?
leaving." Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, it makes rewatching this like fun, but I don't know. Other than that, I really didn't have much. I guess just like if you're a werewolf, don't become a teacher. Maybe like
Or just, like,
seems
know
like
the
a bad
lunar
idea.
cycles, you know what I mean? Like, have a little bit more awareness, straight up.
Well,
Like,
like
you can check
serious
those things.
Sirius mentions like, "Did you take your potion tonight?" or whatever, and it's like, well, then how is he constantly turning into a werewolf all the time and being absent for class if he has this potion? I
Right,
don't
because
get.
there's
I don't
not a
know.
full moon more than once a month,
Yeah.
so, hmm. Yeah, a couple
uh,
questions there for sure.
so, what about you? Any other ones?
Mostly the rat trap situation. It's sort of like, that is the most important thing they
Yeah.
needed to do, going back in
To
time, but
prove his
that's not
innocence,
what
it
they're gonna
seemed
do.
like such a key piece. It's like it's
Exactly.
because now he's just on the run. He's exactly where he was at the beginning of the movie.
Even if they just
Like
had some sort of spell that, like, recorded the statements made or something,
I
like,
was thinking that. I
anything.
was like, dude, video cameras would be so good in the like
Super
so
useful.
helpful in this world, but I guess doesn't fit with like the fictional
Yeah.
diaspora here.
I guess not. And then my only other thing is, like, I love that this is a campus full of locks, but there's a bunch of wizards everywhere that know immediately how to open doors by being like, Wingardium Leviosa or whatever.
True.
Like, they can
I
unlock
like
anything.
when Dumbledore and Snape are having that conversation, he's like, "Any theories on how he got into Hogwarts?" And he's like, "Yes, but I'm not really entertaining any of them or all of them." Or I'm like, "What? Shouldn't you be trying to like figure out?" It seems like security was like not. That was, I guess,
Right.
that's another issue. Security at Hogwarts not great.
Yeah,
Like,
everyone's sort of like, no one would dare do it. That's enough. That's
they're
enough.
like they're hoping for like reputation. It's like the people that put in like cameras that don't work, like that'll scare
Yes,
off
or
the
just put that
robbers.
sign in the front yard, and
Yeah.
they're like, "That's enough, dude."
Oh
Classic,
man.
classic Hogwarts. All right, that brings us to our last segment, Game Over, man.
What a picture.
Good picture. Yeah.
That is so much fun. I love that stuff, the killing.
A lot of killing.
And finally, this is where we rate the film out of 5 time turners. What do you think?
I think I'm going to give this one a 3.5, not because
Okay.
it doesn't earn, high marks across the board, but because it's sort of like the middle of a franchise. It's a part of a bigger story. So it's hard to think of it as like a, 5 for 5, even though I feel like it's probably really wonderfully adapted and it's definitely enjoyable. I love to go back. It's just sort of like I give this franchise a 5. So each film is kind of like enjoyable
Builds up
enough
to
and
it.
done well. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. What about you?
I think I'm gonna agree. I think I'm gonna go 3.5 as well. It's like we said, it's not my favorite franchise. This is like one of the better films like that I remember. Um, it's just like it has a lot of things that I love outside of Harry Potter, but just like because it's in Harry Potter, it can't go full.
Right,
It can't go full werewolf. It
totally,
can't go full darkness.
right,
It's like, which I like because again, it's a teen kid property.
totally,
So it's understandable, but and it's like some again the time travel stuff. I just have a hard time with it, I guess, in movies and fiction in general because having seen this already kind of takes away from the stakes of everything because I'm like,
totally.
I already know what happens
Yep.
and we've seen it already in the movie. And so now we're just going to see it again from a different angle, like,
Yeah, and it's not like a super fulfilling ending. Like, it has an ending, but it's not like
yeah,
a real close because we're starting to pop the story open so much too.
yeah. Like Sirius is just like, yeah, we can't live together. Like we said, peace out. And
But
Harry's
don't
like,
worry, thanks for the freedom, guy.
I got the free broom though. Yay. So it sounds like we don't like this. We do. It is a good one. It's
Yes,
good, but
very enjoyable.
all right. I think that about wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Get your fix and follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and on Twitch at The Buffs. And you can follow
Uh,
me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
so you never miss a rep. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave a positive review. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. Follow me on all the socials at misfit_minded and my website, misfitminded.com.
Next week, we'll be covering another Netflix original. Let's hope maybe we either have the same opinion or we switch and it's fun like it was when we covered
Yeah.
Rebel Ridge. We'll do The Union. We'll see how Mark
I
Wahlberg and
honestly
Halle
really
Berry
like
work.
that. That's one of my favorite episodes we've done recently.
Exactly. It's
Because
exciting.
we disagreed. Same thing when I had a podcast with Edwin. I always loved when we bashed,
It's very
with
interesting.
the
Yeah.
reviews, which happens very often on that show. I have to say.
Ooh, okay, yeah. I'm curious to see how we feel about this one because this one is interesting. I haven't heard too much buzz, but I've been curious, so we'll kind of see what happens there. Thanks again for listening. As always, we'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Until then.